to this on behalf of the Refugee Forum of Los Angeles. I'd like to thank the Refugee Forum for organizing this week of virtual events to commemorate World Refugee Day so that we might shed some light on the current humanitarian crisis that's going on. There are now more than 80 million displaced persons throughout the world. That's a new high, of which 26 million are refugees who have fled their countries from war and persecution. Over half of the refugees today are under the age of, oh my God. Am I muted?
No, you're doing great though, Bev.
Okay, great, good, because it looks like it's muted on my end, sorry. Before we begin, I want to also thank the LA Refugee Forum member partners who co-hosted today's event. HIAS, for whom I'm volunteering, IRIS, the Interfaith Refugee and Immigration Service, and LA County's Department of Public Social Services. We were also assisted by Oxfam and the International Institute of Los Angeles. All of these organizations do wonderful work to help and support refugees in their resettlement and in advocating on their behalf. My name is Bev Weise, and I'll be the moderator for today's event. As a refugee activist, I have volunteered for several years in refugee camps in squats in Greece and in Turkey, and speak out here in Los Angeles about the refugee situation. Today, I'm delighted to introduce you to 4 refugees I have met along the way, who I now consider not only to be good friends, but almost like family. We hope you were touched by the video you just saw as we were waiting to begin. This was the refugee camp where I met 3 of the 4 refugees you'll meet today. They lived in tents or in unaccompanied minor shelters on the Greek island of HIAS for several months to a year. This is how I came to know most of them. Our panel of Syrian and Afghan speakers are about to share some very personal, often emotional stories with you about what it's like to be a refugee. We will hear about the remarkable journeys, what it's been like to be forced to leave your home, to take dangerous risks by traveling to far-off lands in search of safety and freedom, and then to face new challenges as they resettle in their new countries and cultures. We'll also hear about their hopes for their futures. Let me just say that these 4 are the lucky ones. They're among the 1% out of all the refugees who have successfully resettled in new countries. Now think about it, that is a very shocking number. When I heard it, 1% of the 26 million refugees actually get resettled. So let me now introduce our speakers. When I call your name, maybe we could turn the videos on and so you can see them all. Hannah, maybe you could help us with that.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, so first let me introduce you to Omar. Omar Azizi. There's Omar raising his hand. He is a 25-year-old Afghan refugee living here in Los Angeles. He came to the US about 5 years ago and barely spoke a word of English. Wait till you hear him now. In the brief time that he has been here, he was recognized by former President Obama for his leadership and service. He just graduated from USC in business entrepreneurship on a full scholarship, and most recently, and most excitedly, became an American citizen. Mustafa Haj Omar. Where are you, Mustafa? There you go, there's Mustafa. He is a 20-year-old Syrian refugee who now lives in Vienna, Austria with his sister and her family. I met Mustafa a few years ago on the HIAS island in Greece. He was teaching Arabic to a group of volunteers. He said he only did it a couple times, but I was lucky enough to be at one of those sessions. He inspired me so much by his class that the next summer I went to study Arabic for the summer at the University of Haifa in Israel. Let me just say, Arabic is as difficult as you would think it would be. Let's just say it was not so, I am not fluent in Arabic. It was only later that I found out what an incredibly talented, self-taught photographer he was becoming. He'll soon tell us about some of the impressive places internationally he has already given exhibits. Abbas Jaffrey. Abbas, where are you? There's Abbas. He is an Afghan refugee who grew up in Pakistan. He had never attended a real school before coming to Norway, where he now lives. He is studying to be an electrician as he masters the Norwegian language. I first met Abbas in Athens when he and his friend, also named Abbas, helped me distribute protein bars at the refugee squats, and then helped me to navigate the streets of Athens as we played tourists together. Wasim Omar. There's Wasim. Wasim is a 35-year-old former English teacher in Syria. He now lives in a small village in the outskirts of Frankfurt, Germany, with his wife Salwa, who is a former math teacher in Syria, and their 3 children. We met and became friends in HIAS as we drank tea outside of his tent daily while I was there. Wasim became the go-to guy in the camp for international media when they wanted to interview a refugee. The BBC, Al Jazeera, other media outlets, they seem to all come to Wasim. When I was there, he happened to be leading a peaceful refugee protest in the park, demanding European countries open their borders. We have been pre-recorded these interviews with them, and we're about ready to share that with you. As you can see, they're live here today, and there will be here for your questions and answers at the end for the last 15 minutes. So please text your questions in the Q&A section of Zoom at the bottom there as we go along. With so many people on the call, we may not have time to address each of your questions, but we'll try to get to as many as we can. Margarita Jimenez of DPSS will be tracking and fielding your questions, which you can address to an individual or to the group as a whole. If you're having technical issues, please send your questions to the chat box, and Hannah, who you just met, will assist you. The audio volume is on maximum, so you'll have to adjust accordingly if you're having audio sound volume issues. And here's a special shout out to Hannah, who also helped put together and edited this recording of their interviews. So Hannah, please take it away. You're muted, Hannah.
Sorry, I was just saying I was going to mute everyone, and I'm muted. So I'm going to stop everyone's video, and I'm going to mute you all, and we'll just let the video speak for itself.
Omar, so tell us your story. Where did you grow up?
Hi, my name is Omar Azizi. I was born in Afghanistan, and then I was 1-year-old that my parents left when the Taliban took over to the neighboring country, Pakistan. And we were refugees in Pakistan, lived in refugee camps and refugee communities. My journey is a little bit different because we try to go back to our homeland and retry. And we did post 9/11 when the Americans invaded Afghanistan. But unfortunately, even during that time, it was not safe for the progressives of Afghanistan. My mom was a teacher and teaching women how to become hairdresser and become cosmetologist. This is a specific point that I remember that we had to leave again, because I remember the day when my mom came back home and said, we have to leave overnight. So we just left everything. They were kidnapping women and their family and their children, especially the ones who were outspoken and who were empowering women, and my mom was one of them. So we just left everything behind and rushed back out of the country. So that was really painful memory that we just had to restart again. So that journey was also very tough, because it took us a couple of days to cross the border of Afghanistan back to Pakistan. And you're looking at 2007. This is when the America's in the US, and seemingly on the news, you think that Afghanistan is safe, but it's not, because now the Taliban and the warlords have taken power in the government. But it's still not safe for a lot of people in Afghanistan, and you're also looking at bomb blasts everywhere. So we escaped And then we went to Afghanistan. We lived in a refugee community, and one of the biggest challenges were the persecution by the police. We were undocumented, and we would always have to make sure that the police doesn't find us. Go place to places. We couldn't find jobs, at least not legally. We couldn't buy even a SIM card legally. There was no identification card. The only thing that I had was just a United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, or UNHCR's ID card that said no ID number, just only said, please cooperate with this refugee, which most of the police officers would just tear it in front of us. So what we would do is we would make copies of it, so when we would tear it, we could have another copy. So until 2014, 2014, we were one of the lucky few, which you mentioned, one of the 1% that made it out of Pakistan. And when we got resettled with my family to the U.S., and we came to San Diego. And
Omar, how long did it take you? Excuse me. How long did it take you from the time you applied to come to the U.S. till you actually arrived?
7 years.
7 years.
Yeah. No matter how much we would try to give evidence of and prove that my parents were actively being persecuted, not just by the local police, but mainly because by the people in Afghanistan that they were after. They were coming in and looking for someone like her, but nope. And then the one of the main proxies was the security clearance, and they kept checking if our family is terrorists or not. You're looking at two progressive people who were very known in the capital of Afghanistan, and also the kids who, we were just kids, right? And they were running my name over and over if it matches the leader of Taliban, whose name is also Omar, and all of that. And the security clearances with FBI, CIA, the Homeland Security for so many years, and until it finally happened. We had given up in a way of that U.S. may never accept it, but last minute in 2014, a miracle happened and we made it out.
Wow. And you arrived in San Diego.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you.
It's a different story.
Different story. Yeah. Thank you. Hello, Wasim. I believe we first met in the Suda refugee camp on the Greek island of Chios in 2016. Please tell us about your journey from leaving your country to ending up in a small village in the outskirts of Frankfurt, Germany.
Hello, my name is Wasim Omar. I came from Syria. My age is 37 years old. As you know, the war in Syria had started in 2011. And at that time, I was an English teacher. And my life before the war and my family life before the war was very good. Until during the war, I tried to keep my family, and I would like to stay in home or in my village. So I said maybe this year or the next, and the end of the year, the world will find a solution for the Syrian crisis. But after waiting for 6 years without finding any solution for the crisis in Syria or the war in Syria, and my children get more older and they have to go to school. At that time, I said, it's the time to leave out of Syria.
What was your profession in Syria and your wife's?
Yeah, I was an English teacher in Damascus or in Damascus countryside. And my wife also was mathematics teacher. And we wouldn't like to go out of Syria, but when we had seen that the situation get more complicated and my children get more older, especially in my area, so the crisis in Syria get more and more complicated. And when my children get more older, at that time I had a lot of afraid about my son. I said I have to go out of Syria.
What a journey. Tell us about the time where your daughter, how old are your children?
Yeah, my daughter was, at that time, my daughter was 6 years old. My son was about 4 years. And my young son, 1 year, 1.5 years. My daughter, when there was bombing in Syria, my daughter also had a lot of afraid. For example, when there's airstrike or when there was bombing, she ran and she stay in the corner behind the door, and she had a lot of afraid or a lot of fear. And when I was out and I heard the sound of the airstrike, or I had noise that the bombing will come or they will attack us. I directly ran to keep my daughter or to hug my daughter and my children and to keep them calm down, especially my daughter, because she had a lot of afraid or a lot of stress.
Wasim, wasn't there a story when you were walking for a long period of time? It was really difficult to walk.
When we arrived to Idlib, we had to go. When we arrived to Idlib, we had to go or to pass the border between Syria and Turkey, or to cross the mountain. There's, of course, we didn't came to door and say, welcome, you can pass to Turkey. We had to use the smuggler, and our trip was very difficult in raining night, and there was a lot of cold, and I hug or I carry my son and our bags, and I had to catch my son, and my wife catch here my daughter. Then we go up the mountain, from one mountain to another, about 3 mountains. We have to go up and down until we pass the borders, and we were in Turkey lands.
How did you end up in Germany?
In Germany, before I came to Germany, as you know, we had to stay about 1 year in Chios or in Athens in general. And the situation in Chios was very, very difficult, especially for people who are arrested or who are concerned about their future and about their family future. So I had a lot of stress in Greece, and I said, maybe I have a chance to go to Germany to re-establish my life, on my future and my family future, and maybe I couldn't. But when I get my asylum in Greece and I have a chance to move legally from Greece to Germany, then I asked asylum here in Germany, and after that I could have protection in Germany to stay in Germany. And that time I had the power that I could re-establish my life now in Germany, and I could face all the difficulties, especially the language. As you know, most German people wouldn't like to speak German as English, even though they know English, but they like to speak German because they are living in Germany. And I had to learn the language. Firstly, I found the language, before I go to school, I found the language was very difficult. I would like to learn it by myself, by YouTube or so. And then I said, oh, what a crazy language. I couldn't understand what is that, and so. But after I went to school and I started to do B1 level, then I started to know and to understand what go on. And after that, now I do B2 in German language, and I could say that I could understand about 60% of the German language, of the German speaking, when I hear conversation or when I hear news or whatever in the TV. And I could manage my life in German language. I didn't need more to use my English knowledge of speaking or to explain what I would like to ask for.
Thank you. I know your German and Salwa's German is pretty amazing now.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Abbas.
Hi.
I think the first time we met was in Athens, Greece, a few years ago. I remember you telling me your amazing story then. Can you share some highlights with us from why you fled your country and how you ended up in Norway?
Hi, my name is Abbas Shafari. I'm 20 years old, and within a month, I'm going to turn into 21. I'm from Afghanistan, but I grew up in Pakistan. I was 2 or 3 years old. I was very young when we left the country and we moved to from Afghanistan to Pakistan. And the reason why I left the country was because my parents are from two different ethnic groups, and they have married without the will of their parents. In Afghanistan, it's not a, it's more, it's not like other European countries that they will take this problem, this issue very small. It becomes a very large issue. In this problem, I think I've lost many of my family members because they were so obsessed with my family, with my parents. When we moved to Pakistan, I grew up there. I spent almost 14 years of my life in Pakistan. The life was very good there for us. We were just imagining that everything is sorted out, so we don't need to worry. But at the end, I started noticing that no, this issue is still on its way, and my life, I was not feeling safe. I used to work in a bakery shop for almost 45 years, and the owner of the shop, he used to take care of me as his own son. So yeah, one day I was working with them, and somehow he sent me to bring food from his house. And in my absent, when I was not there, some of the people, they came into the shop and they were asking about for me with my full name. And since the owner of the shop, he knew what I have been through and what was the situation, and almost all every single problem in my family. So he mentioned that we don't know this guy, this boy, and we have never heard about this family, especially in this city, in this town. So when I came here, he just told me that you have to go home right now. So I just knew. So when I started, it was about 8 or 9 p.m. So when I left, he came after me at my house, and I was eating food, and somehow he and my mother, they have started talking with each other separately, and I just knew that my mother at that time, she was packing my bag, and I just had an idea that I'm leaving right from the spot. So they have already called the taxi, and he has given me some cash in my pocket. And I was thinking that maybe it's some kind of tourist point, or I'm going to the picnic. But he said that you have to just follow the instructions. You don't need to ask anyone anything. This taxi driver will tell you and everything, and you just follow the instruction. You don't need to ask anything. But somehow I ended up in Iran. So yeah, I walked. It was around somehow it was 1 a.m. in the night. We have start walking, and we ended up in Iran in 15 hours. We were walking through the mountains to one another. So in 15 hours we were in Iran.
Excuse me, Abbas, but was a taxi driver a smuggler?
This guy was, we can tell a smuggler because there is not one specific guy who is working with smuggling. So they work all together. So he smuggled me from Pakistan. He smuggled me from the city where I was living, near the border. That's how we started walking 15 hours from one mountain to another mountain to Iran. So when I ended up in Iran, so I was in Iran for 20 days. So in a car trunk, we were like 3 people in a car trunk. We moved from Tehran to near the border of Turkey. And we have started again about 16 to 17 hours of walk again. So At that time, it was nice that I was having some rest. One of the memorial thing that I know that when we walked 16, 17 hours from Turkey, Iran to Turkey, when we came back to the smuggler house, when I have taken off my socks, the nails, some of my nails were stuck in my socks. So yeah, at that time, so because we have walked a lot between the mountains and at some point there was some small lakes that we have to go through it. Yeah, so yeah, then I was in Istanbul, for a month, and I have tried 2 times to go to Turkey by boat, but for the first time when we were in 8-meter boat, we were around 75 people. So when the smuggler started the boat, we were on water on our way almost like 2 hours or 2.5 hours, and we have been pushed by the Turkish Navy, and they took the whole boat again to the city name called Didim, and I was prisoned there for a month. We were crossing the border illegally. So after a month, they have, one of the bad memories that I have in Turkish jail was when we were when they were serving the dinner. After when we were finishing the dinner, they were opening the room. There were around 8 to 10 Turkish army, or we can say police. They were flying like a Bruce Lee towards us, and they were kicking right in our face. So yeah, so they have beaten us a lot in prison, almost every single night after the dinner. So one of the bad memories that I have with in Turkey was that jail that I have been through. Yeah.
Abbas, what was it like to be an unaccompanied minor? You arrived in Greece when you were like 16 years old.
Yeah, so for the second time when we have tried, we have ended up into Greece island called HIAS, if everyone knows about it. So I was in 6 months, I was in HIAS island as an unaccompanied minor. Then we have moved to Athens for a year. 1 year I was in Athens. Then I started family reunification process with my brother in Norway. So he had some lawyer, and I had my lawyer from the Greece. So they have sorted out, and they just bring me to Norway. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? What happened when you got to Greece?
Yes, in Greece, in HIAS island, I was thinking that there is no any right for the children who are under 18, because since we have been a volunteer in Greece too, and some of the people especially many Americans were as a volunteer, they work in Greece. There was no accommodation for the unaccompanied minor. Wow. No accommodation, no schools, no activities. But I'm so happy and grateful from the volunteers like you guys that you were there, and you guys have helped us, and found many activities for us, many. So that's how we were thinking that now we are being treated as an unaccompanied minor, because before we were thinking that there is no any right for the who are under 18. Then when I moved in Greece, then they have put us in a very nice house with like it was an orphanage with 12 other kids from foreigners, all of them. So we had a very wonderful time.
And you studied in school there for the first time?
No, it was a learning center. It was a language center. Yeah, but the thing is that everyone was hopeless. No one wanted to try. No one wanted to learn the language, because we have seen the situation of the Greece, and most of the unaccompanied minors, they had a family members to the European countries. So it was just, they were just pushing us to learn the language, even though they knew that we are not going to be in Greece. Within a few months, we are going to take off from here. Instead of pushing us to learn the Greek language, they could have arranged other things like German classes, Norwegian classes, other classes. But whatsoever, I'm so happy about even though they have founded the school for us. Yeah, so I came to Norway. It was 1st June. Yeah, one of the biggest challenges for me to come in Norway was the language. The language was one of the biggest issues that I think it was. And since I came from Greece, I have learned Greek language too. It was very difficult for me to learn new language at the same time. Right. So yeah, and I was not allowed to go to school here for the first year while I was in Norway because I was rejected by the asylum seeker Norwegian asylum immigration office. So I was not allowed to go to school. But finally, when my family came here in Norway, I got a paper through them through family reunification process. So right now I'm going to school. I have a very good life, good accommodation, best facilities of education, healthcare, everything. I'm so happy that I have ended up in Norway. And I'm with my family. Yeah.
Thank you, Abbas. You went through a lot at a very young age, and it's a remarkable story, and you're a remarkable person. Hello, Mustafa.
Hi.
Now coming to us from Vienna, Austria. So tell us, how did you get there, and where were you from?
I'm Mustafa. I'm from Syria. So actually, many reasons made me decide to go out of Syria and live peace away from it. So actually, the first reason was because of the bombing and the things that is going on in Syria, the destruction, not destroy houses and stuff. The first thing happened to me in Syria was my best friend was killed in front of my eyes, which was a very, very hard moment for me to live with, and it took me several weeks to wake up from this shock. Actually, it was very hard to see my friend bleeding in front of me and dying, and that was because actually the war strike bombed the shop in my village. Many people got killed because of that, and one of them was my friend. The second reason because of the military service, they told me and my 4 brothers to go to the military and join them fighting the Free Army. But we were sitting in the Free Army. They sent reports and stuff to us, join us. We refused that. They sent again another report. If you don't join the army, you'll be executed and killed. So that was the second reason why I left Syria. And the third reason, what happened also, another bombing come to the shop, and my father also, he works as a vegetable seller. He used to work a vegetable seller and a director in a school, actually. So 2 different jobs. My father was there. I used to go with him every morning, selling and helping him. But one day I didn't go, actually. I told him I was tired, I'm sick. I can't go, I'll follow you later, in some hours. He told me, okay, I'll be going first. So after 1 hour, exactly 1 hour, we heard the airstrike flying over us and suddenly bombed on the shop. And it's a long street shop, Yeah, it's
okay.
all shops. So I run to the top floor and I started shouting, "Where's the bomb? Where's the bomb?" And people started saying it's in the shop, in the shops in the middle of the city. And I started running there. I reached that place, and I saw so many people in front of my eyes, on the ground. And one of the people was my dad. So people was holding him and taking him to the car. And I was just so shocked, and I started like shouting at the people, "Why are you holding my dad? Like, well, where are you taking him?" They said like, "Just calm down, calm down." So some people started taking me away from that car so they can move. And the car moved, and I was like in a shock. I started like crying the whole day. Then someone told me like, "I can take you by the car to the hospital. You can see your dad." We went there, like, but we didn't see him because they said like he's hurt really bad. So we took him to the bigger hospital. There is a better service in there. That time I actually got like, really sad. I went back home and I waited like for almost like 2 days until the time came, and I went to my dad and I saw him. He was like, he was not awake yet. I saw his like, his leg and his hand and his back was like all with iron stuff. I don't know what is that for the bones, because it was all broken, and his hand is like, he cannot move it anymore, like until now. I stayed with him like for 5 months, not getting back like to home. I was with him for 5 months, caring about him until we got him home. And after that, my brother-in-law in Austria, he was here in Austria, told my family like, "Why don't you get one of your sons to Austria so he can take you out of it? He can make a reunification. He can like do something for you." I was the youngest. I was able to like bring my family to Austria. So like my family started talking about that. My mother cried. She didn't want me to go out. She didn't want me to have that journey because she knows like this journey is gonna be really bad for me, and it might kill me. So like after like 2 or 3 days discussion about this, like we all decided, except of my mom, decided like that I would go like to Austria and join my sister in it. Then
Can I ask, how old were you then?
14.
Wow.
Yeah.
By yourself.
Yeah, like not 14, like 13 and a half or something. Like it was like 4 years and a half ago. So yeah, we started searching about a smuggler. That smuggler was like from another village. We told him, like, I want to go out to Turkey, and then like we like made everything for that. He took me to the borders, so he can lead me to the other side of Turkey and to Rayhania, if you know it. The first time, like I didn't succeed. Like we started like moving for some hours, but I didn't succeed because the Turkish army was shooting on us fire. We couldn't do anything, just like to run back away from it. And the second time we went to another one, and he told me like, this journey will be like really hard for you. You have to be patient. You have to be like calm all the time. It was like before the new year, like in some hours only. We went there to the mountains. Some people like stopped us. "Where are you going?" and stuff. Like started telling us like, "What's your names? What are your age?" and stuff like. And we told them everything. We gave them everything, and they told us like, "Okay, you can go." Like it was inside Syria. They were like Syrian people. We reached the borders, and then we started like walking all the time on the mountains like for 8 hours in the night. It was snowing. So I actually, while I was like hiking in the mountains and moving there, like my feet got through like inside the mud like for like half a meter or something. So I had to hold my feet and put it there, and then hold the other one and put it there. So and yes, before I reached the last mountain, I fell down from the top of the mountain, and then thank God, like there was a tree that I hanged with. If there was no tree, I would have been died. I would have died there, like directly. So like I was like taking the tree, grabbing the tree, and I waited for the smuggler to come down and grab me up, like take me up. I waited like for 5 minutes until he reached me, and he told me like, be careful, it's really dangerous. We started like going, and I told him like, I want to go back home. I don't want to this whole journey. I want to celebrate with them. I want to do something, you know, like I don't want to have this really tiring things. And he told me like, just be patient. He was so kind with me. Be patient. We are going to be there. We're going to be there soon. And I started crying until I calmed down, and then we started moving again. We reached Turkey finally after like 8 hours walking in the dark. Like you can't see nothing in front of you. We reached there, and there was a car waiting for us. We got into the car, and then we stayed in Antakya for like 2 days. Then I made a fake Turkish ID, and we moved then to Izmir. It was a journey like for 2 or like one and a half days. I reached Izmir, and spoke with the smugglers. We started like doing like discussions about how to go there. I was actually thinking about going by feet, walking, not crossing by the sea, because I was really afraid, and I don't know how to swim. I didn't know how to swim before. So after all, like, we talked about it, but in the end we ended up like going with the boat. I say like in a restaurant, in a room which is like really wet, and it's like on the roof. It was really cold for 1 week. Finally, the day came until like the boat was like ready, and the police was like not there. Was not like. We got onto the boat. It was like a small boat with 65 people. Like we managed to all like to be on top of each other, like on top of each other. I was really afraid, so I was almost about to cry. Someone saw me. She told me, like, if you are afraid, like just come to me, and then like I will hide your face. You don't have to see anything. And I went to her, and I like put my face on her, like, and she like dropped my eyes, and she told me like, it's okay, we're gonna be there soon. We started directly moving until we reached the middle of the sea. When we reached there, like the Greek ship, protecting borders ship, I don't know what is it about, the NATO ship, I don't know, like started like stopping us and turning around us, like you have to stop, you have to come with us. We were afraid. We thought that it was Turkish or something, so they will take us back to Turkey. So we said like we are not going like back. We are not going to be with you guys. We are going to complete. Like after like around 5 or 10 minutes, they left, and then we completed to the island. Before we reached the island, actually, the boat blowed up, and everyone went to the sea. I was like in a shock. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. But thankfully, there was a guy who was like a very good swimmer. He called me and swam with me like until the edge of the island. It was like really near, like it was 10 or 15 meters, not really far, until I reached the rock, and then I grabbed it, and then I started climbing. Three of the people who were with us, like almost sank inside the sea, and they took them to the hospitals. But like after 2 days, we got a report like they are alive and they are okay. They will be joining you soon. So like they took us to the camp. If you guys know it, it's in Greece, HIAS. In there, we made all the papers. We made the fingerprints and stuff. We finished all that, and they told me like, if you want to stay in Piao camp or like in Suda camp, there was 2 camps. So when I told them like, I have some guys that I know like in Suda camp that I want to go there. They were friends of my brother-in-law. I went to Suda camp, and they were waiting for me for some hours, like. And when the bus reached there, like they started saying, Mustafa, where is Mustafa? Is Mustafa there? Like I was, yeah, Mustafa. Are you searching about me? And they said like, are you Mustafa Juma? And I said like, yeah, I'm Mustafa Juma. Who are you guys? We said like, we are friends of your brother-in-law. I said like, yeah, thank God. And then I actually called my family. I told them like, I made like a trap. I told them like, I couldn't reach HIAS, and I told them like, I couldn't make it. Like, and my mom started like being sad. And she said like, the most important that you are like, okay. And I said like, oh no, I'm joking. I'm here, so I'm in Greece right now. And so when she heard that, she said like, oh God, I couldn't believe that. I'm so happy about that and all that stuff. She cried happiness.
What an amazing journey. How long were you in Greece before you got to Austria?
So I stayed in Greece for 1 year and 8 months. In this 1 year and 8 months, I actually have done something I was passionate all my life about. Like it was photography. I'm in love with photography. I'm in love with everything about it. So I started with my phone. It was like a really old Samsung phone, like taking photos of the sea, because it was the first time that I saw the sea in my life, like in the daylight, not in the evening. It was evening when we traveled from Turkey to HIAS. I was so happy. I was surprised about how big it is and how blue and beautiful it is. I started taking photos and publishing it on Facebook. I made friends in Suda camp. And the friends of these friends in Suda camp started sending me requests, and like day by day started becoming like I started getting like more attention from people because of my photos. Like it was like really normal photos. One day, one of my friends told me like, why don't you take my camera and start taking photos? And I said, okay, are you sure about that? And she said like, yeah, okay, like you can take photos until like you become maybe famous. I said like, yeah, why not? I took the camera and then started like taking really good photos by this camera. I started learning about it, started watching YouTube, like getting each information I could like get. So like by the months, I made some really cool photos in Viao camp. I took photos of the refugees, took photos of the nature, and a lot of stuff. I started showing photos to the people, and by the photos, some people some people started talking with the company, with an organization which is called Metabrasi. It's Metabrasi is an organization for hosting minors, refugees minors. And actually, like in 2 or 3 hours, after like the people talked with them, they came to me to the tent, and they told me like, why don't you join us? Why don't you come to us, and you can have your room with a friend. It's a better place. It's not dirty. It's there are stuff that they can help you. He say, oh, yeah, okay, but after like not really directly. Like so, like I refused many times because I was afraid about it. But in the end, they told me like, why don't we show you it? I went to see it. It was really cool. There were like some minors and Arabs. I enjoyed talking to them. I felt like a little bit comfortable. Then I moved there. So like by the days, I got more like photos, and then people started talking to me and telling me, why don't you make exhibitions? And I said like, I don't have any like places. I don't have any money to make friends or stuff. They told me like, why don't you speak with someone that you have in there? And he actually told them. And they said like, finally, you have got something. You have got an idea. You can do something. And they said like, of course we can help you doing this. They actually rented a place and printed my photos and had my first exhibition in life in HIAS exhibited, and I had like around 1,000 people like visiting it. It was also because of the I had a judge who's a friend of mine. She like invited like so many people. It was like, really like beautiful of her to do that.
Where else have you had photographic exhibits of your work?
I actually had an exhibit also in the Parliament in Athens, and in the Supreme Court in Athens. I had also in Germany, in Holland, Sweden, America, and one in the UK.
Yeah, we did one here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for helping me.
It's an, it's an amazing journey. Amazing.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all for sharing your amazing personal stories about your fleeing your countries and the journeys, the difficult journeys you had to your new countries and your new homes. Let's move on to issues about resettlement. Wasim touched on it briefly when he discussed trying to master the German language and has been the biggest challenge for him and his family. And how about the rest of you? Omar, why don't you share some stories about arriving to San Diego and what some of the challenges were and some of the successes in your resettlement?
The language barrier is the lack of resources. And even if there are resources, they either don't reach refugees or refugees cannot reach them. I couldn't, I was, I think 20 back then, and I was discouraged not to go to college or go to school. And that was, I think, devastating for many other young people. But I just somehow got my way and made it to college, and I graduated. So that was a challenge for me. And the biggest support was, I think, somehow finding the people who support you. It doesn't have to be NGOs, it could be individuals. In my case, for instance, I want to give you a shout out, Bev. It has been you too. For reading my essays, scholarship, to helping me negotiate in job applications or in job interviews. This has been incredibly impactful. And just one person, you empowered me. I empower my siblings. My siblings have volunteered for hours and hours, and their work has been recognized to the extent by the president as well. And you can see the ripple effect. So I would say the help has been by individuals who will be listening to this call as well, who can make a difference. That will be my answer.
Thank you for that shout out. Thanks for sharing. Mustafa, what about you? What in your resettlement process was the biggest challenge, and what helped you the most?
It was actually also the language. It was all about the language. Like when I first came to Greece, it was also like the language. I couldn't express my feelings. I couldn't talk about it and all that stuff. And also when I came to Austria, the German language is really, really hard, So when I came here, no one is talking in English with me. Very, very few people are talking with me in English. So I had to learn, I had to do things. And, also another thing, it was really challenging. You can say two things. It was the family reunification. That was the reason that I went out, So I was trying to bring my family out of Syria, but I actually failed. They did not accept me because they wanted papers from the regime, and my family cannot go there. And because of what I told you about, because they want me and my brothers in the regime and stuff, in the military service. So we couldn't make it. We tried each way, every way we could ever have, but I did not succeed. And the whole journey fail. But it's okay now. Now I'm trying like to learn the language, to learn more about it, to get to school, to get back to school again, then get a job or something so I can help myself, help my family in Syria.
And has there been either individuals or the system of support in Austria that has helped you?
Yes, it's actually like they offered me the courses, like a language courses, which is for free. It's really good. And I had some friends who offered me also like free lessons, like personally. Like they told me like we can teach you German and stuff, and I told them like that's really cool of you guys. And I started meeting them and I started talking to them in German. Like that helped me a lot, like reach the second level of the language.
Great. And what helped you the most with photography?
What helped me the most, it's actually motivation. Like you, Bev, some other guys did something which is like really cool. Like you are like people which I can never forget in my life. You helped me a lot. And there's something that I want to also mention, like there's a woman which has a foundation in America, in Los Angeles. She offered me a camera, which is like a really expensive one, a really pro one. So she gave me the camera, which was like the dream of my life. Like I told her, like, this is the camera. This is the dream of my life. I want to get this. And she told me, like, you will get it. She sent it to me, like, to Vienna, when I was in Vienna, and I was in shock, like, when I got it. This thing also, like, made me more excited about photography, more motivated. Like, and I started, like, I cannot thank her in words. I don't know what to do to thank her. Like she's really cool. I really thank her from the bottom of my heart.
I know when she said she wanted to buy you a camera and set you up professionally, she just wanted you to be successful as a photographer and field because she saw the talent in you and really wanted to help provide you with the tools that you need, and you're taking good advantage of it. So that was
exactly.
Great. That was
She's
great.
really
and that
cool.
was at a World Refugee Day event where she saw some of your pictures and got so inspired by your photography that she decided, she and her partner decided to buy that for you.
Yeah.
That's great. You put it to good use. Abbas, how about you? What was your biggest challenge and what helped you the most?
The biggest challenge for me was, basically it was the language and integrating with the new culture. That was one of the most difficult things that I have faced when I came in Norway. So the language, it was difficult for me because when I arrived here, I didn't have the positive answer from the government, and I received a mail that I'm not allowed to go to school for a year. And at that time, I was living in a big camp, and it was a big house, and we were living like 12 boys, and we were sharing every single room. We were sharing 3 boys in one room, and at that time, the biggest strength for me was my own work hard, my hard work. Because even though I was not allowed to go to school for the whole year, then what I did, I started doing Google, using Google Translate, watching YouTube and hearing Norwegian music to catch the dialect and how they pronounce the words. And I was watching some serials too at that time, even though I was having zero idea what they are talking about. The only thing I was trying to learn was to catch the dialect, how they pronounce the word. And and like I said, on the other side, it was integrating with the peoples too. Because since I was not allowed to go to school, what I was doing, I was sitting in a park beside the people of Norwegian. I was trying to communicate with them somehow and asking a small sentence like what is your name, how old are you, and how many sisters and brother do you have. So I was trying to communicate with them to learn the language, and I was not getting a positive response from them because they were too scared from me. I was outsider. I came to Norway here, and I didn't know the language. So that's how it was difficult for me to communicate with the people.
Thank you. So let me ask you all one last question. What is your hope for the future? In one sentence, what are you hoping?
It's funny. Actually, I want to get my family in the future to Europe. I want them to join me, have my parties with them, enjoy with them. I wanna be a big photographer maybe in the future, and I really wanna this war ends like as soon as possible, like so we can go back, rebuild our cities, our destroyed homes. That's everything.
Thank you. And Wasim?
For me and for my family, my hope that we could have the future for our family. So in this time, my hope that I have, after learning the language, I have a chance to have good job. I and my wife will get a good job, and we establish our life here in Germany, more better and more better. And of course, I hope that the war in Syria and all over the world will be over, and we live all in peaceful, and we could visit our family in Syria.
Thank you. And Omar, what's your hope for the future?
Well, on a bigger picture, of course, I would really hope for peace in the Middle Eastern countries, where the overwhelming majority of the refugees are forced to leave their homes, and an end to the suffering of refugees. But in the context of this call and the constituents of this call and the people listening would be more solidarity for refugees and more support and for people to stand with refugees. Because when you stand with us, with refugees, you actually send a powerful message of inclusion for all. And it does make a difference. Help one refugee, he's going to help his community. And so I really hope there would be more awareness for people to demand from their representatives to support inclusive legislation, and just do anything you can. It could be a small donation, it could be checking up on a refugee, it could be just joining any initiative, or being in this call. In fact, you're showing that you support refugees. So a more amplification of what's happening. So I would really hope for that.
Thank you. And can you tell me a little bit about the app that you've developed at USC with the team that helps refugees in refugee camps?
Yeah, I've been really lucky and privileged to have access to resources of the University of Southern California. I worked with the engineering school of USC, and we designed an app which is a user-friendly and a very basic, simple app designed for refugees, through which they can find NGOs and resources around them in refugee camps in their own native language. So it connects refugees with NGOs and resources, and vice versa. So we are doing a pilot right now in Greece, and it's a nonprofit, it's an app, and we soon are exploring possibilities of expanding to Turkey. So very exciting, and yeah, that is again thanks to the people who have supported us.
So what's it called? What's the app called?
It's called Safar, or in Arabic and Farsi, or Safar, the way I say it to my English-speaking friends. It means journey. So it's influenced by my journey, by the journey of thousands of refugees who I have known and who we have met and surveyed. Yeah, it's a pretty cool app.
We wish you,
and it's free.
We wish you much luck with that, and we'll later provide places where people can donate, and maybe they could help support that effort. I know UNHCR is very interested in it as well, and it's in many different languages. So thank you for your work on that.
Thank you.
And thank all of you. You were amazing for sharing your stories. I know it's difficult, and I really think that by you sharing your stories to other people who don't often have contact with refugees from your part of the world, and how difficult it is being a refugee and the challenges that you face. And we hope that we could help refugees more in the future to integrate into their new lives and to be successful contributing members of whatever society you're in. So thank you so much.
All right, we have come to the end of the video. So thank you all so much for joining in and listening to these wonderful stories. As we're seeing in the comments, they are remarkable individuals and their stories definitely deserve to be heard. So thank you so much for your participation. We do have about 20 minutes or so left for Q&A. So we would be happy to have you stick around and join us. Bev is going to lead us into the next section, I'm sorry. And Margarita will also be facilitating the questions and the answers.
Great. Yeah, actually, I was going to turn it over to Margarita.
Oh,
But I just
Hi,
want
Bev.
hi. Before we do that, I just want to say one thing. Having had the privilege of meeting these folks in refugee camps or in Omar's situation at USC, and then visiting them visiting Abbas in Norway and visiting Wasim in Germany, and to see how their lives were transformed and remembering the thing that made me realize this is the right thing to be doing to help refugees is when I saw Wasim's in the refugee camp and his children being refugees, and then seeing a photo of his daughter. I'm going to get verklempt. Seeing a photo of his daughter on her first day of school with a little backpack and a little jean jacket and she's off to school, and she's a really smart kid. I mean, she was really, really smart. That I saw the transformation, and now seeing it over the years, how people are being transforming from a group of refugees to really contributing amazing people has just been so inspiring to me. To answer some of the questions, and if you have additional questions, please put them in now, and I'll turn over to you, Margarita.
Hi, everyone. And so, yes, we've gathered a good amount of questions, whole good amount of conversation, discussion, and light into these refugees, asylees, and others around the world that may have similar experiences. I see here that everyone has their own unique experience, successes, and challenges. I'm going to start off with one question that came in, and it was very interesting. It has to do with, this was submitted by an attendee. The question was, how can other countries learn from Norway's way of receiving refugees, about Norway's resettlement of refugees? And what could Norway learn from other countries about their resettlement methods and systems? Can we have one of the panelists join in answering this question?
Yes, hi. Sorry, I just answered the question too early. I was not having any idea we should wait. So when it comes to the Norway, since I'm living in Norway, and it's almost 3 years, Norway has one of the best facilities when it comes to the education or healthcare. And with the welcoming of refugees, yeah, it's they have, Norway is a little bit strict right now for taking refugees, but yeah, it will be better, I hope so. According, when it comes to the law too, Norway should not should sorry they should learn that other, when I have so many friends in Germany and other European countries, I mean, they are allowed to go to school and they are allowed to work and there many other facilities. But in Norway, we have a little bit strict law with the refugees. So this is what I concern that Norway should give more opportunities to the new coming refugees to come into the Norwegian environment to learn the language or to work be helpful for the society. They should give a chance.
Thank you, Abbas. And there was a related question, and from somebody else who asked. I know you mentioned, like in Norway, individuals don't have the right to attend school right away. How about as far as work? And this is open to any other panelist, Abbas included, who can provide input. How about the right to work while awaiting for refugee or asylum status? Aside from the United States, is that and I imagine that's definitely a hardship, but is that what happens? Is there a considerable amount of time to wait while someone is being considered for asylum status or refugee status?
Can you clarify that question again, please? Is it about what the circumstances for refugees when they get to Norway, and how long, and if they can work while they're waiting for their status? Is that what the question is?
Yes. Do they have the right to work while awaiting to obtain asylum or refugee status? Are they able to work right away while waiting there, or it's not legal?
No, it's they are not allowed to work until they got asylum in Norway. And for the schools too, when you come to Norway as a refugee and when you apply for the asylum, you have just 250 hours to go to school. When you are finished with the given hours given by the government, when it's done, so then you'll receive more updates from the government that the 250 hours is finished now, so you are not allowed to go to school anymore. Neither you are not allowed to work until you will get asylum.
Thank you, Abbas. And can we hear from other panelists here, as well as their experience with that challenge to not be able to work right away?
Yeah, please. I would like to introduce the situation in Germany about the working of the refugees in Germany. Can I do that?
Yes, Wasim.
Yeah, okay. The situation in Germany, it's different from, sorry. The situation in Germany is different from the situation in Norway or maybe in UK or other European country. Here, it's more easier than other countries. For example, the people or the refugees, especially the Afghanistan people, most Afghanistan people, they didn't get asylum in Germany. But now in the beginning of 2020, there's a new law in Germany. These people who have Duldung, they say it in German. Duldung, they have to depart. They have to go out of Germany during 3 months. If they have a chance to get Ausbildungsplatz, like to get the training place in a company, then this training, they do it for 3 years. During these 3 years, they have the chance to stay here in Germany, and their file will be studied in the BAMF. And BAMF is the immigration office for refugees. And after 3 years, they could have a chance to work, and they stay in Germany, and they get or they can have their future in Germany. That's for the people who have to leave Germany. For the other people who get asylum in Germany, that directly after they get the asylum, they can work directly if they learn the language, or if they have or if they know the language, or if the Arbeitgeber or the company or the man or the owner of the company, he accepted that man even though he didn't know German or he didn't speak German language. But he said that, okay, you can work with me because you didn't need to speak so much German. I can explain to you in English also, or we can find way to contact together. Then he can work without learning the language. But on the other hand, in Germany, there's a system or there's a method that the German government support the refugees, and they asked them to go to do P1 course at least to learn the German language, and after that they can introduce themselves to the work more easier.
Thank you, Wasim. And so that sounds, definitely a good opportunity, something to definitely take advantage of right away, to learn the language other than your native country's language, your native language. What would anyone here can provide input into this next question? What would be your advice to an Afghan family or any other refugee family that has children or teenagers to do or to look into during their first year in the United States? And this question came in during their first year in the United States, but anywhere where they have resettled, and in some sense they have found a home for now, what would be your advice to that family during their first year after resettling?
I can try to answer that because I am an Afghan and I came with my family here. I think I would try to answer it differently and say the advice rather would be for the people who are listening to this call, because I'm assuming it's unlikely for any Afghan family to be listening to this call. I was just going through the participants, is that helping them finding the resources. Right now, the systems in the US, the NGOs, including the International Rescue Committee, IOM, Red Cross, or many other NGOs that are trying to help refugees, they also need some institutional changes to be able to help best the families. And I'm speaking out of experience. So the refugee families are overwhelmed and there's only so much they can do. I'm not sure if I have an advice necessarily for them, but rather the people who can help them. So introduce them to the community of refugees would be one. And not just leaving them with those NGOs to be assisted. Go out of your way if you can, please, and check with them what help they may need. Sometimes they struggle to find transportation going to schools. Sometimes, for instance, the NGOs do not encourage them to go and pursue education. The systems are not designed in here to do that. Unless the kids are under 18, by law, they tell the kids to go and sign up for a high school or a middle school. But the ones who are over 18, they are pretty much pushed to go and work entry-level jobs, which makes sense in a way to pay the bills. But on the other hand, they have so much potential, so much capacity for improvement and learning new skills, or even brushing up on these skills that they brought in from their home country. And that is something that's not talked about much. So if you see that, try to encourage them, again, connect them with resources, communities. For instance, you can connect them with me. I do volunteer a lot for refugees and I would love to help them. And this is just limited to the US. I mean, Wasim and Abbas and Mustafa can add to that, but I think the question should be more directed to what we can do as the supporters and volunteers for them.
And also just to add on to what Omar had just mentioned. Everyone who is attending will be receiving a post-webinar link to a resource folder, and that resource folder will actually include some advocacy materials, and you'll be able to connect further with the ideas that Omar has just mentioned. So please look out for that email, and feel free to reach out to any of us as well if you have any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone else have input? Any of the other panelists have input for families to look into opportunities for their families, for their teenagers, their children within the first year after resettling? And again, not necessarily here in the US, but in other parts of the world. Okay, thank you, everyone. And Omar, there was one question. Yeah, and we like to hear, we're interested in hearing. We know that, your recent graduation from USC. What are your plans now that you've graduated? What are your next plans? We like to hear if you're able to lend some light into what are your next plans, perhaps continuing to work with the population, the refugee asylee population. But if you can give us some more specifics, we'd appreciate that.
So I am very lucky and privileged to end up where I am, having access to the resources that I have here in the US. And I somehow ended up having the opportunities to go to USC. And I studied business in there, and I graduated, in fact, last year in 2019. So right now I work for a tech company here in Santa Monica, which is a city here in California. It's a Google Chrome extension, but on the other hand, my night job is to give back to the community that has given me so much. And that is through a nonprofit or an app that my team and I have designed to help the refugees find the resources around them. This is thanks to USC and also some other people, including Bev, and probably Michael is also listening in this call, who have supported me to create this app. So I'm just busy with that. We have launched it in Lesbos, Greece, to help refugees find what NGOs are around them in their own native language. This is a problem that we have done primary research, and we have found out refugees suffer from lack of information. They don't know who to ask, what to ask, and where the right shelters are, where the clinics are, what educational classes are. And that is something you can find on our app, which is Safar. And I see some people are very kind sharing the articles and the websites of Safar there. So you can learn more about that, and that's what I'm busy with. I'm not gonna go too much into it to give time to the others.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Omar. And we also have some commentators here, and they like what they've seen and heard from Mustafa. Mustafa, we have someone who asked, couple of people here who asked, where can they see more of your work? They find your story to be very incredible and also motivating. Can you please provide us information on where they can see more of your work?
I'm not sure about that, but I'm actually not doing any exhibitions anymore. Like I'm trying actually to help people who want to learn photography. I actually did like 2 times with a friend of mine from America, which is originally from Bulgaria. He's a teacher in northern Arizona. He came here twice, last year and this year, to help refugees learn photography, and that's what I actually want to do. I might be like willing to do exhibitions in the future, but I'm not sure when, because I'm still resettling, because like I'm searching about a new flat, I'm searching about language lessons, and I'm searching about so many things, and I also want to work. So like I'm busy with so many things right now, and Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Mustafa, and I'm sure you will keep in touch with Bev, and that way, you know, she can help to disperse this information to the rest of us and beyond. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, I know we have perhaps one more time.
Yeah,
Time for one more question. Is that right, Bev?
No, actually, I think we're supposed to be ending right about now. So
yes.
Thank you so much, Margarita, for handling the Q&A. And I maybe one word from Abbas and Wasim about your immediate hope for the future, like one sentence. Anybody? Abbas, one sentence. Your hope for the future.
Yeah, peace and love for every single person who lives in this planet.
Oh, thank you. That's a big wish, and we hope it's true. Thank you. Wasim?
Love and peace all over the world.
Yeah, thank you. Amen. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. I want to thank everybody for being on this call. You can see from the comments, it was so inspiring, and your life stories are unbelievable, and you're just so impressive. And I'm glad you were able to present a face to who we are, who refugees are, and it's not this just refugee thing, but they're real people with real stories, with real talents and skills, and so glad that you had an opportunity and that we had an opportunity to hear that from you. As Margarita was mentioning, you're going to be, if you're on the call, you will be receiving an email in the next day or two with some resources where you could volunteer, where you could donate, an advocacy toolkit, some stories about Abbas has a very good friend who was deported back to Afghanistan from Norway. You can read about his story. And there's a woman a friend of mine who's a Syrian woman, which we haven't heard from many women. The women are very shy, even though I've approached them, they're kind of a little too shy yet to be so visible. But this one woman, Rasha, did write a story, and that will be in the resource guide as well. So we hope that you're inspired enough to take some action, whatever that is, volunteer, donate, whatever it is, and just to help really support these phenomenal people, so we bring up that 1% resettlement number to a much higher number. And thank you all. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Hannah, and thank you, Margarita, especially.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day, everyone.
Thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.